Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Food Fight today. This is Chef Joe. Along with me is Chef Chris. And we have a special guest today. First guest ever on Food Fight. Want to introduce yourself there, Kevin?
Hey, guys. Kevin McCann.
Ooh, Kevin McCann from McCann's. Awesome, man. So we brought you on today because we've all been to your establishment. We hear about you. We see you all on social media and the newspaper and everything else, and we figured you'd be an awesome person to come in today and discuss a little bit about your life and where you're from and where you're going. How does that sound?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to call this like Got Beef, bro. Like, what's up?
I like it.
I mean,
what's beef?
What's beef?
I got to tell you got to give a shout out to the shirt that he's got on. It's the Wu-Tang Clan, but the McCann style logo.
Yeah, it's
Love
pretty
it.
gangster.
Love
I
it.
want one.
Yeah.
3X, just letting you know. No, so let's just jump right into this. I mean, we had a holiday weekend here. We all enjoyed ourselves with our family, except for Kevin. He worked.
That's true.
That's what he does. So talk to me a little bit. Like, where were you born? Where are you from?
I am from the land of Oz. That sounds like a joke, but it's actually true. I was born and raised in Chittenango, New York, which is where L. Frank Baum, the guy that wrote the Wizard of Oz, that's where he was born. And so my town is a little ridiculous and over the top. There's yellow brick sidewalks.
Come on, man.
Name
No
of the
way.
diner is Aunt M's. There's Oz Cream. There used to be the Emerald City Lanes. It's a little over the top, like I said.
Okay,
that's pretty cool.
So now we're going to seem extremely boring to everyone. That's terrific, Kevin. Awesome. So what'd you do growing up as a kid? Did you have sports? Like, what was your thing?
Yeah, man. I mean, I did the normal stuff, right? Like I rode bikes, played on the dirt and all that, and then got into football and played some lacrosse and played some golf, and I did a lot of skiing and got into some theater while I was in high school and went on and did that in college. And
Where'd you go to college?
SUNY Brockport.
Okay, awesome. And so, but you're a butcher now.
Yeah.
So what happened? What turned here?
Yeah, there was this really nasty event in my life. It was a big turn. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, oh my God, dude, what the hell did I just do right now? Oh, man. I was like looking around like at the ground like, fuck me. Oops.
No, man, I got hungry. I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm a big guy. I got hungry, and so I just started cooking. And after trying to do the whole theater thing and working in restaurants and all of that, I hated serving tables, even though I was good at it, made great money. Wanted to do something a little bit more tangible, right? So started cooking and really enjoyed it, and finally went to school and learned how to do it. And once I got there, it was like, holy shit, like this whole butchery thing, this meat thing is awesome.
So now let everyone know, you went to the CIA, right?
True.
Culinary Institute of America. It's one of the most prestigious culinary schools in the nation. And the
Absolutely.
world, correct?
In the world, yeah.
I mean, it's the place to go if you want to be somebody.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Now, when you went there originally, did you know you wanted to be a butcher, or you figured that out like once you were kind of in the program?
Yeah, I was going to open my thought process. I went when I was 30, so I was like one of these like career changing guys.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Wow.
yeah. When I got there, I was like, I had thought it through. I had read the Michael Ruhlman books and was just like, so I kind of had this like mythological idea of what the CIA was. And then I went for a tour of the place, and it just looked so polished and professional, and it like got in me, right? Like it was in my blood at that point. And so kind of formulated an early style of business plan, was going to open a catering business.
Oh, okay.
Made sense to me from like a business standpoint, right? You're only going to buy and make what you're going to already have sold. So got there, you go through the initial couple of classes that are all sort of classroom. They're trying to teach you math and trying to teach you how to write and product knowledge and food safety, and the first class you actually like put a uniform on and hold knives in your hand. You're either in the fish kitchen or the meat kitchen. Now things have changed now. They've sort of evolved it to more of a semester style program. It used to be this, what they called progressive learning year. Long story short, I walked into this meat room and it's in the basement. It's stone walls, it's cold, it's short ceilings. You can hear a bandsaw on your way down. You walk in and there's one of the chef instructors who's wearing like a hard hat. And there's meat hanging somewhere, and it smells like meat, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like mysterious.
I was like,
where you walk.
I mean, I feel like I was just like in a Bourdain narrative show right now. I could actually visualize walking down this like yellowish walled like building and hearing the bandsaw going off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I ended up cutting myself on the very first day. Like 5 minutes in, I cut my finger and I'm bleeding profusely because, I had drank the night before and I'm just bleeding like a pig. And I was like, man, this is great. And I'm like, trying to like tape my finger up so I can get back to it, right? And I just kept finding ways while I was there, each class, I was 30 when I went, and there's a bunch of, wet behind the ears, 18-year-old kids straight out of high school. So I'm just straight bullying kids. Like, you don't want to cut meat. I want to cut meat. So you just get out of my way. And so I just kept finding ways to keep doing it through classes, kept volunteering some time in that kitchen when I had free time. Ended up working for a butcher who was a chef instructor there who had a spot across the river. Just kept going. Just kept learning, kept finding new people to learn from.
That's pretty cool.
Love at first sight.
Yeah, it's like I bet you some people go to culinary school and like they want to do some of that just to have the knowledge, but that's not their passion. You know what I mean? It's just like you kind of go into pastries for a specific thing. It's like meat fabrication is like one of those things I can see everyone kind of wants to know how to maneuver themselves around a carcass of meat.
Absolutely.
But not everyone wants to make that their goal. So I think it's really cool that you knew that going into it, like the sounds, the smells, the everything was like, that was like your shit. Like you
Caught
knew it
me
instantly.
Yep.
And you didn't plan to do that either. That's what's kind of cool is that it kind of just
let's be really honest. Let's be honest. I was the kid in 7th grade when we dissected frogs. I couldn't hold my lunch down.
Yeah.
And here he is.
Straight up.
Here he is, right?
Straight up toss the cookies right on the floor, man.
That is cool.
So, to do what I was doing was really weird to me. And when I went to like my first field slaughter, one of the chef instructors there, he would take students to a farm, right around the Hudson Valley there, and they would kill hogs and teach people about the process. And it was great for the farmer because, they had some kind of program where they were sort of bartering with other farmers, and they would give pork and they would get vegetables or however it worked. And man, the first time I went and like we killed a pig, and his name's Hans Sebald. He gave this speech, and it was like super solemn, not religious, but this pig, we're about to take its life, right? So like there's some important shit going on here as far as making sure we're utilizing this animal, making sure it's not just killing for the sake of killing, but for the sake of sustenance. And the first time I held like organs, heart, liver, kidneys in my hands that were still warm from life, like all of a sudden it made like it was real. I was like, holy shit, this is important.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what's like kind of like funneled you into having your own like boutique type of establishment too.
Yeah,
kind of getting away from like the mass producing.
Yeah, it's just the taking that lesson and learning so much about all of the fucked up shit going on in the industrial meat world and what they're doing and how it all goes down and what people are putting in their bodies. It freaked me out. And, my wife and I were getting ready to have a baby. And so it was just like, let's figure this whole thing out. And there were some really great models out there of people who were out there doing this and doing it for the right reasons. And I got to learn from some of those people and kind of enlighten myself a little bit and figure out how to help my family, and by means of helping my family, help out other people eat well too. So
yeah. Now, so we were discussing that you found your passion in school to becoming a butcher. How long of a program did you do? And then what was your first step after that?
So CIA, the associates program, they say it's a 2-year, at the time it was a 2-year thing. It really ended up being like an 18-month scenario by the time you go through, do your externship, come back, graduate, the whole thing. And you can stay on and do bachelor's, and I think they've got a master's degree of different kinds now and whatnot. But at any rate, I stayed for the associates, and I stayed on as a teaching assistant in the meat room after graduating.
Okay.
So I did about another 1.5 years there, apprenticing under those professors, and then parlayed that into getting a job at a meat packer in Manhattan called DeBraga and Spittler. And they're like the predominant high-end boutique to all of the who's who chefs and restaurants all over New York City. It was a really amazing opportunity to work in that caliber of company. and I was their productions manager, which meant that I worked an overnight shift, 10 at night till 10 in the morning, in the old meat packing district of Manhattan, before it even got culled down even more than it even already is.
It's changed a lot, that area now.
A ton.
It's unbelievable.
It's
we were just there.
It's clubs and museums and
Restaurants.
yeah, but Hector's Diner is still there. If you're in New York and you care about food, go to Hector's Diner. It's a greasy spoon, hole in the wall, but it's money, man. It's just classic. But at any rate, so yeah, worked for them, great opportunity. But I wasn't in charge of product. I wasn't making anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was sort of overseeing the butchers who were getting stuff done. I was overseeing guys who were picking pre-made product to fill orders, ensuring that trucks got filled and were shipped out to these different restaurants.
So you're kind of bored in a way. You just weren't exercising like what you really wanted to do.
And I was overwhelmed in responsibility,
Sure.
but I was underwhelmed in feeling gratified for what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right. And truth be told, I screwed up. I yelled at a USDA inspector, got myself fired. Might have intended that, might have not. And, subconsciously, subconsciously.
I think we've all been there.
But so I left. Ran a restaurant, the whole thing, apprentices for some more people. And
Where'd you meet your wife then?
met her at CIA.
Oh, okay. All the way back from college then.
Yeah, she was going through the program after I was. She actually, this is going to sound terrible. While I was,
I love it. This is really good.
While I was a teaching assistant, she came through as a student. And no, it wasn't like that.
Oh,
It really wasn't like that. We actually didn't even start seeing each other until after I had left. She was on her externship, and she was doing her externship at Del Posto, which was really like a block and a half around the corner from where I was working off Washington Street. And so we would see each other, and she lived a hop, skip, and a jump. We both lived in New Jersey. I was in Union City. She was in Weehawken. And so we were, right there. And ended up seeing each other there and just kept it going.
That's awesome, man.
That's cool, man.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole story, it's like just hearing the background, I'm like sitting here like, wow, I had no clue. I don't want to sound naive, but it's like, I didn't realize you like changed your career at the age of 30 and you're like, fuck it, dude, I'm going to the college.
Yeah, I never knew that about you.
Then to
I
find
made a
that
million
you're going to
different
go to be a
mistakes, and I had to-
catering
had to
company,
do something.
and you turned into a butcher. Yeah. And not just a butcher. I don't mean to like sound like that, but it's like your story is pretty amazing. So after you like intentionally sabotage yourself to get fired, what did you decide to do after that point? Is that when you like packed up and came to Rochester, or like?
No, I tucked my tail between my legs and I went home and I lived with Mom for a year or so.
Okay.
And I ran a restaurant in Syracuse called Postabilities.
Oh yeah, everyone's been there.
I've
Well,
heard
if you
of that.
haven't been there, you got to be there.
I've never been there.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, Armory Square staple, man.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's the spicy tomato and oh, dude,
the spicy
chicken
tomato
riggies.
one,
I mean, I've even been
Ooh.
up there. It's good.
All right,
So
yeah,
It's
check
kind
it
of like an assembly line type thing. You walk through, you can pick different things. You can pick your
for
pasta.
their lunch, and then it's
lunch,
like
yeah.
a more like traditional sit down
didn't realize
restaurant at dinner.
Okay.
But
Way to
it's
go.
still so they changed that whole brilliant thing really because they have that style for lunch, right?
Yeah.
Kind of cafeteria.
Yep.
But then they switch it up, and that whole line turns into production for.
And he says the
300
whole
covers at
line. This
night.
thing is like 10 feet long.
This
It's not
this
big.
table
It
is
not
about
big.
the same size.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine Kevin being stuffed behind there.
They put me on the end because
Oh, okay,
you can't get around me.
That's pretty cool, man.
No, but that was fun. And, I was able to sort of take some of my ideas. I was their sort of nighttime kitchen manager. And so, I started making the sausages that are on the menu. And we started grinding fresh for meatballs and grinding fresh for hamburgers. And I started doing a little charcuterie while I was there. And, I started curing and smoke. I turned our oven inside of the kitchen into a smoker so I could smoke the duck bacon. They've still got like this duck bacon pizza that they make. That was on diners, drive-ins, and dives, and the whole thing. And so yeah, it was a fun opportunity to kind of take the butchery thing and put it in terms of a restaurant.
Yeah.
But I had this butchery thing just really kind of nagging at me in the back of my head. I just wanted to really fully pursue this. So, long story short, I was talking with an investor in California, kept trying to figure this thing out. He flew me out. We were going to do this whole thing outside of San Ynez, California, outside of Santa Barbara, and ended up never coming to fruition. But it made me really think about ways that I wanted to break an animal down and things that I wanted to do with it, products that I wanted to make, just the idea of a sandwich, how like powerful a sandwich is, and where do those meats come from, and how is it that I can produce those things. So I started thinking about recipe-driven stuff, right? Long story short, went back to New York City for a period of time. Still at this point was dating my now current wife, and we lived together on the Upper West Side. Ended up working for a spot in Queens called M. Wells. Crazy, insane, brilliant chef named Hug Dufour. He was one of the original guys at Au Pied de Cochon in Montreal. But insane man, very meat-driven, learned a lot of recipe stuff from him. Left there to go apprentice at Fleischer's. And at Fleischer's, I had taken sort of like all of this work from chefs that I had learned from and butchers that I had learned from, and like the work in sausage and charcuterie and different things that I had done. And now I was like surrounded by this idea of breaking down whole animal and this idea of locally sourced whole animal utilization. And it was like that last piece of the puzzle that I hadn't had enough experience with, and that really fleshed out the whole thing for me. So now I'm saying, okay, so cow, whole animal, all the cuts, all the different things to make from them, all of these different culinary problems to then go about figuring out how to solve. And it was fascinating, and I just head first down the rabbit hole, and here we are.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think we all have that moment, that story that really changed all of our lives. And it's
Sure.
really cool, like, to get that from somebody, to find out that, like, you're not alone. Like, there's that one moment where the light bulb just goes boom, and you're just like, holy shit, this is what I have to do.
Absolutely.
It's like you don't have an option anymore. It's like what you have to do, what you're meant to do. Like, you're going to be an actor. And then you're going to be a chef.
Right.
and then you're going to run restaurants. And then you're like, you know what? I got to do this whole boutique thing.
You're going to be an asshole
Yeah.
throughout.
Yeah, it's like, of course, an asshole's like mandatory. I mean, they teach you that everywhere you go in the CIA. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's really cool, man. I mean, holy shit, right?
That's pretty cool.
So when did you guys open?
June 1st, 2015.
Wow. Has it been that long already?
Yeah, some days it feels like it's been like 4 minutes, and then you realize it's actually been 4 years. And then there's days that you're like, it feels like it's been 14 years.
Oh, yeah.
But here we are.
I remember that I was the executive sous chef at Mario's at the time. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother, I was staying with her because I came from Tucson. She like gave me this article in the newspaper. I was like, take a look at this. This is something new. We got to go check this out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this place? You know, McCann's. I'm like, what's the deal with this? And I was like, holy shit, it's a pretty cool place. And I really got to know your place when I was actually in the works of designing and like coming up with the concept for Nosh. So I didn't have an office. I didn't have anywhere for like anything. I used to spend time at Glen Edith and drink coffee and have meetings there. And me and my ex-general manager, we used to go to McCann's and have lunch. And I used to always go on Wednesdays, I think, because that's when you had the bulgogi sandwich. Mm-hmm. And I was like obsessed. And that led into the sloppy Joe. That led into like the beef on wig. That led into like everything.
Sure.
And it was just like,
Beef fat fries.
dude, the fries, man. I used to get a side of that with the japchae, and like I used to be in such heaven, man, because it was like I'm a Korean, you know. I'm like, I wasn't raised as a Korean. My mom like kind of was out of my life by the time I was 5, and she was the Korean part of me. Mm-hmm. But I had my own influence that made me drive to kind of experiment and to get exposed to it.
Sure.
But that was like one of the coolest things of walking into McCann's was like all the fusion, and that's not something you see every day. First of all, you don't see like locally sourced beef butchered in a different way that you can see. It's kind of like a whole experience when you walk into McCann's. It's not just a butcher shop where you go, I want 5 chops. It's like you're going to watch an apprentice over here breaking down like a leg of beef. You're going to see somebody over here breaking down a loin of pork. It's like quite the operation. And it's like a show. If you can go in there and leave within 5 minutes, you're just an asshole. Like there's so much to see. so much to do and so much to eat that like it's a cool thing. It's like a traveling circus. Don't take offense to that, but it's so cool. It's like a show.
That is sort of where the theater experience I had. So a lot of the work I did in theater was as a director, because I really enjoyed this idea about taking all of the different aspects of theater and sort of making all of it make sense together, right? So the lighting, the sound, the costumes, the props, the acting, the whole thing, right? And creating this picture for an audience that made sense, so that all of those elements came together to convey the message. And so when I was designing this space, I mean, there was nothing there. It was just this wide open warehouse. And I remember when we walked in, the real estate agent looked at us and goes, "Well, you're going to have a lot of vision." And I was like, "Well, I did a lot of acid, so I'm all right with that." So I did. I went home and I took out a graph paper and a ruler and a pencil and a calculator, and I started figuring this whole thing out. And so, yeah, I mean, it is intended to be a show, right? There's a reason why the lights in the production areas are brighter than in the dining room. There's a reason why it's kind of set apart and open and accessible and visible, because we want that.
Yeah, and even the walk-in has windows to it, so you're seeing everything.
Right. I mean, we're not. The thing with butchery and with meat is that I think everybody has this preconceived notion that whatever is gross and I don't want to know about is behind that big heavy door.
Yeah.
Right. It's behind that wall over there.
You nailed that on the head, actually.
Yeah.
So like from the word go, it was like everything.
You want to be transparent.
You want to see everything. We're clean. We're proud of our processes. We want you to see. We want you to ask questions. We want you to be a part.
Yeah.
This is so crazy because like I have like the same beliefs of dining and experience for Nosh. Same thing. It's like I wanted there to be like a partially open kitchen so you can kind of see the action but not see the action. It's like you want to see the wood burning oven. You want to see all these things. Right. You want it to be an experience because no matter where you go, you can get a plate of food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The food only tells so much.
Yeah.
And we all know, being in this industry, that like if service sucks, the food's gonna suck. You know what I mean? If the food sucks, the service is gonna suck. That's the perception of every person that comes in there. So it's like really cool when you can offer an experience.
Sure.
Because those are the things that they're gonna remember. They're not gonna remember just going there and eating your sandwich. They're gonna go there remembering like everything I just said. Like you see everyone working on things. You see all these moving parts. You just kind of, it's like a Disneyland for like a chef almost. It's like you can get stuck there just watching everything take place and just you feel kind of creepy at times. Yeah. I guess just staring, but it's like you intended it to be that way.
100%.
So you shouldn't feel bad.
No. It's supposed to be kind of like, part barbershop where you can come in and bust balls and have a good time. It's supposed to be part like active museum, right? Where you can see what's going on and ask those questions, learn a little something, and oh, by the way, you're going to eat something that's going to be delicious, and you're going to see something as far as a food that you've never had before, or you're going to bring your grandfather in and he's going to ask about a cut that he used to get when he was a kid that he can't find anymore. And he asks you and you're like, well, yeah, I've got it right here. And then this old man gets all excited and jazzed up because he's like, holy shit.
It's like literally a barbershop. Can you do a high and tight flat top? You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, what? It's like, hold on, I could do that. It's like, oh shit, I'm in the right place.
Yep.
That's really cool, man. Now, like your vision of like where you are today, how much of a percentage is it to like what you originally started? Like, do you feel like McCann's has evolved to where you want it to be more so now, or where it was supposed to be from the beginning? Because I know like everyone has these thoughts of like where they want to be when they first open.
Sure.
And then reality hits, the bottom line hits, and then all these things hit, and then you're just like, shit. Well, I can't do everything I wanted to. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like you're on the same path that like you intended to in the beginning?
I think for the most part, I'd say like 80% yes. And it's funny because my wife and I were just talking about this, about just how the prepared foods program has evolved, and whether it's too much, it's just enough, whether it's what it is. And, we wouldn't be open today if it wasn't for that prepared foods program. Now, obviously, I've got a big kitchen. I've got a kitchen probably as big as any other restaurant in this city. And that was intentional, right? Like that didn't just happen. So I wanted the sandwich program. I wanted the prepared food program to be big. And if it wasn't there, I probably wouldn't be here. Because when we first opened, people would walk in and they'd look inside my meat cases and they'd see things that A, they had never heard of,
Yep.
B, price points that freaked them out, right? They got that total sticker shock.
What do you mean 1895
Yeah.
for a sirloin?
But it's even that like when you go into a typical grocery store, it says $4, $8, $10. It does, and that price per pound is like conveniently hidden, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
we're
you're
doing everything as a price per pound, and everybody's going, whoa. But long story short, so retail did almost nothing when we first opened.
Really?
If it wasn't for sandwiches and French fries, I wouldn't be here.
Stop
because they can't wrap their head around a $12 a pound steak, even though it's an 8-ounce steak and it's only going to cost them $6, which is something that they are used to. They can't figure that out. That just wasn't computing in their head. But they understood what an $8-9 sandwich was. So they would sit down and eat lunch and go, "Wow, this is good. I'm going to come back and have lunch again. I'm going to bring a friend with me." Now they have lunch again. They said, "You know what? Maybe I'll try something out of the case this time." And it just sort of like snowballed from there.
Like built trust with them just based off the quality of food, then translated to the food they're eating.
100%. And it still happens that way because now regular customers bring in their friends and family and they have lunch with them first. And they, on the way out, go, "Oh, by the way, you've got to try this sausage. You got to try this steak. You've got to try this marinated item. You got to try this deli meat." And they buy something to take with them on the way out because they had a good experience. They had a good meal. So it's
really, it's the chef in you that really drove your business as being a butcher.
well, it's that gateway drug, man.
Yeah.
They got that. They got it in their system. They tapped that vein, and now they're just like, "Oh, well, let's see what else there is." And here we are.
That's really cool. And I think, the drug is good, man. That's like the point, is that the food's good, the quality of meat's good, and it's just a very unique place. I've never been to a place that you could find such variety.
No, I keep trying to think of one, but I just can't.
I've walked in there and
seem
seen
to
some
come
shit.
up
I'm
with
like,
something that-
I'm like, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do with that?
And
I want to ask somebody, but I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I got to take my chef coat off really quick before I go and ask stupid questions like that.
No,
You know
but
what mean?
I will
It's
tell
like-
you, we've collaborated before on a dinner, and honestly, we're always learning in this business. There's always something to learn. There's always somebody to learn from, and I will tell you that we collaborated on a dinner.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I said to Kevin, I said, just you tell me what to cook, man. I'm just a cook. You're the butcher.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he came up with some ideas for me, and I said, okay, then I'll run with that. And we did like a braised copa.
We did the braised copa. You also came to me and you were like, "I really kind of want to do a belly dish."
Yep.
And so we did like a beef belly. It was
cool.
fun.
That's
So we
cool.
did the braised beef belly on there. So it's really awesome to have you as a resource.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's all food, right? And so like whether it's a pig or it's a cow or it's a lamb or whatever it is, like there's fun ways to kind of spin all kinds of different stuff, and there's only so many cooking methods, right?
Yeah.
So if you understand those basic cooking methods and you understand what this meat is and how it has to be cooked, then sky's the limit. You can apply it to whatever.
So, like, how many chefs would you say walk through your door on a daily basis and take stuff out of your case and bring it home? And do you run into a lot of chefs around Rochester?
I'm gonna. This is gonna sound somewhat arrogant, and it's gonna be 100% simple and honest. I don't have time to go around a lot of places, so unless some chefs introduce themselves to me,
Yeah.
I might not know you.
Okay.
The same way that, like, if I'm just walking around town, you would have no clue who I am.
Yeah.
Because
Some people might
I'm
not,
just
yeah.
always
Some
at my
people,
shop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, so I'm hoping it's more than what it is.
I'm just wondering
But,
how
like,
many people are actually going there and consulting with you for free, and you're not paying, or they're not paying you. For
I
your
don't.
advice.
I would
like
say
they're walking
not
in
enough.
like, hey, what do you got today? How can you help me out here?
that does happen.
Yeah.
And I have to be. I'm just such a, like, I didn't create anything, right? All this shit exists.
Yeah.
It was out there. I didn't recreate any wheel, right? And so I'm really kind of like open about all of it. I'll have a conversation with things about just about anybody at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have to kind of take a step back as a person in business and not just food guy in the wild. I have to be like, all right, this knowledge that I have does have value.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, like, I don't know necessarily the right way to quantify that or to structure it. So I just,
I'd seen in the past, you had your team over there. Was that for the dinner, Chris, or was that for like, you guys are like, he was like kind of doing some demos for you, or was that all?
Well, that was, we had a big tournament coming up.
Okay.
And we decided to do a whole pig porchetta, really.
Okay, cool.
So we went over there and, Kevin was gracious enough to allow us to come into the kitchen, into the butcher area, and then actually do the pig with us.
Yeah.
So like
he came to me and he was like, we're going to do a pig roast. And I said, that's cool. I go, but what do you think if we just bone this sucker out?
Yeah.
And he was like, we can do that. And I was like, sure, we can do that.
Do whatever you want to do.
Do you want to stuff it and sew it back up? Do like porchetta style? He was like, yeah. Can I bring my guys? And can we make like a day of this? I was like, hell yeah, let's do that.
See, that's really cool, man. So like, do you offer services like that for the average person? Do you have classes or seminars that you want to pass your information, your knowledge on, not just to like your apprentices, but also to like the general public that probably have no fucking clue what they're doing with meat?
So education obviously is something that is extremely important to me, and it's something we do with our apprentices on a daily basis. It's also something we do with our customers on a daily basis because they're asking questions about what a meat is, how it should be cooked. They've got recipes that some article had or some celebrity chef on TV talked about or whatever. And so that it manifests itself in that way. We opened with the idea of having classes and demos, but the reality of the scenario is what we do is so time consuming and intricate that the time and space that we would use to have those classes and demos is already tied up in production.
Okay.
We're open 6 days a week. We're only closed on Sundays.
And you need that one day to kind of
I'm not giving
get
that up.
Yeah, I hear you. You shouldn't. You work hard enough and you do enough. It's tough because I'm sure there's a good part of you that wants to, but it's like you also have to be responsible enough to know that like the limit's the limit.
Yeah, it's my wife that she kind of like pulls the reins back, and because I'm gung ho, it's like let's do everything.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And my wife is just like, you slow down there, Horace. You got a lot of things that you're already doing that are already important. Oh, by the way, your kids and your family.
Yeah, my fiance does that job for me as well because I do the same shit. I just want to go. And she's a reminder that, hey, look, there's real world stuff that goes on while you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like we get stuck in the four walls that we're at for hours upon hours. And it's like we forget there's like society. Yeah. We forget there's like the world. So
yeah, I mean, my job really, it's funny because like the way our partnership works out, it's the same in our personal life as it is in our professional life, and it couldn't be any more perfect because my job is to make big things small and to talk to people, and my wife's job is to do everything that requires intelligence and wisdom.
Well, shout out. There it is.
Sounds like my wife.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's really cool, man. I mean, that's the truth, though. I'm glad that you know that balance. I think we all, like, at a younger age, though, didn't know that balance.
Oh, well, you make a lot of mistakes along the way to find out that.
Yeah, that you need that one day. Even though, like, all of Rochester probably benefit from going to, like, a seminar at your place to be shown how to, like, break down an animal properly. You know, because there's a lot of New York, there's a lot of hunters, too, that would probably benefit from going to your establishment, being shown how to properly break down and handle
That was my first opportunity with whole animal. One of the butchers that I apprenticed under did a lot of deer processing.
Okay.
And a deer is put together the same as a pig, as a lamb, as a cow, as a bison, as an elk, as anything, right?
Yep.
So that was my first opportunity with like skeletal structure and the whole thing. It was fun.
Yeah, I've been a hunter since I was like a little kid, so I've truly enjoyed it. Like just like the way you said, you felt the warmth of like the intestines and like what it meant. It's like, as gross as that might sound, it's like what also gives you respect as a hunter. For me, it's like when you take the life of that animal, it's not just gonna be wasted and thrown away. It's like 100%. You're not gonna just hunt for trophy. It's like I hunt for meat for my freezer,
right?
Because I enjoy to eat it.
Yeah.
But it's like those moments like what give you respect for the animal, and it shows from like how that moment happened for you and how it translates to your business and how you run it and operate it. And like, that's like the thing is like, do you feel like the standards that you have for your business and like the motto of like your business is something that more people should follow? I mean, I know it's hard. We all know it's hard, that we all have to rely on like the industrial meat packing companies to do their job because there's such a demand for it. It's unfortunate.
And that's the reality of it is that the local farmer is never going to be able to keep up with the economy of scale that these large companies can accomplish.
It's like you couldn't sell me tomahawks from my restaurant, even though
Would
it's
love
not
to.
that many.
Right.
It's still the point that you can't produce that much locally.
Right.
And you have so much waste. I mean, realistically, it's one cut out of like 1,000.
So if I could hope for anything, it's that what we do is kind of like this throwback idea, right? Animals that are raised hormone, antibiotic, and steroid free, on pasture, grass fed. This local farmer producing food for the people who are in this local area, and so. If there's anything I could wish, it's that more of that would occur. Now, in the industry, it's tough, right? Like, you want tomatoes in January. And, you're kind of accomplishing a little bit of that with your tomato farm.
Yep.
I heard you talking about that in a previous episode. And that's amazing, right? That's solving a culinary problem. And if there's anything that I could wish for, it's that idea, that solving of the culinary problem would become more internal, people could afford things, and
almost like taking a step back into time in a way, 100%, right? Yeah. When things are in a smaller scale.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I love Pacific salmon, but a FedExed fish overnight. What are we doing?
Just get it out of Lake Ontario.
What could go wrong with that?
3 eyes. You get more product. What the hell? That's the truth, though. We've all got accustomed to this new world where, we can get whatever we want whenever we want it. And that's also the driving force of keeping places like yours not open.
Yeah.
And it sucks because it's like the supply and demand. It's like we want the things we can't have and we get them. So then we stop getting the things that we need. It's unfortunate. Like you see an establishment like yours, it's like if everyone, 50 years ago, you would have been like a dime a dozen in a way, because you would have been a local butcher who takes care of animals that were grown here. You wouldn't be getting them in from Omaha or, Texas. You'd be taking care of local animals.
But it's also an exercise. So like this whole box meat industry thing, and I'm going to go a little meat geek on you here for a second.
Love it.
So this whole box meat industry thing it started as a positive idea and from a positive place. We opened on June 1st, so we were right after Memorial Day. And I was sitting at home on Memorial Day weekend of 2015 and sort of, reflecting on that in this box meat industry. And so I was doing a little bit of research on it. I'm trying to write my employee handbook, right? So I'm trying to come up with a story. And as I'm doing this research, basically at the end of World War II, they took all of these resources from the war effort and repurposed them. So you get all these soldiers coming back, and they got to do something, right? They got to have a job. They got to feed their family. They have all of these machines and all of these factories producing these machines that need to keep people employed and need to make things. They've got these chemicals and these medicines that need to go somewhere. So next thing you know, the very first box meat a company pops up, and it's a name that you'll recognize. It's IBP, which stands for the Iowa Beef Producers. And basically they put these soldiers to work in this assembly line style establishment where nobody had to have a ton of knowledge, because they're going to give them a knife and you had to make one cut continuously throughout the course of a day. Next animal comes down, make that cut. Next animal comes down, you make that cut. And all of a sudden, tanks became tractors. Medicine and antibiotics for soldiers turned into antibiotics for animals to prevent this, problems that they were having through force feeding them corn and so on and so forth, and being in such close proximity and so on. But, now there's refrigeration, there's refrigerated trains and trucks, and so they can transport this meat in farther distances, and they can process this food. So now you start to see fast food restaurants open up. You start to see TV dinners and other frozen processed things start to pop up. And it was this time of prosperity and good feeling, right? And so all of this was for good reason, right? It just, decades later, it turned into this apathy of we don't know how to cook anymore. We don't know how to source our food anymore. We don't have a connection to our local farmer anymore. We don't have these traditions anymore. And so, now with this proliferation of food TV, for all of its benefits and its downfalls, one of the things that it's doing is people are buying into CSAs. People are going to farmers markets. People are recreating these connections, recreating these traditions, recreating all new processes by which they can have that connection to the food again. And so that's why places like my butcher shop can actually thrive, because there are those people that want that. They're making that socio-political decision, and that's great.
I feel like we just got taken to school there, man. That was awesome. I was like just sitting there staring at you. Sorry, if that got awkward for a second. Fuck it, man. That was great.
Like I said,
I just learned a lot right now. That's great.
Sometimes.
I mean, that's good. That's what you're here for, man. If you're listening to this, how the hell could you not go to his shop and spend your paycheck? Like,
Absolutely.
You should feel 100% confident that going in there and what you're buying, it took knowledge, it took time, it took skill, and it took a little bit of give a fuck. Like, it really did. It took a lot of love. I mean, respect.
A lot of love.
Like, it's like we're trying to go back to recreating that relationship between the farmer, the butcher, and everything else that like our world has been founded on. I mean, it's unfortunate the direction we're heading right now, but it's good to kind of have these moments to take a look back and try to step away from it and go a different direction as well.
Sure.
I think that's kind of like where we need to go as a whole as this industry. I mean, we're getting away from all the fine dining and tweezers and all that shit, which is good. We're getting back to the basics of good food and good product. I think that's important.
Yeah, and when you're talking about sourcing locally, how far out is locally?
So any of our animals come from farms within about 60 miles.
60
it
miles,
might be
okay.
61, it might be 62, but we're pretty close to that.
How dare you?
Okay.
Our bakery that we use, just like you do, Amazing Grains, they're over in Fairport.
They're awesome.
We're using some Pittsford dairy. We're trying to Fuego coffee and everything that we're trying to bring in, we're trying to keep local. Our maple coming from Victor and everything. I'm going to space on names, and I'm sorry to everybody that is listening, and I'm forgetting your name. But like we do our best to try to keep everything as close and local and do that thing, man. Walk the walk.
I can respect that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know my views on locally sourced. I'm a big believer in the best product. But I mean, if you can go to the farm and you have a relation to that person and they have as much passion about like growing a tomato as you do cutting beef and growing and taking care of it, then that's what you should always
100%.
So that's good.
And and when it comes down to it too, is just because we do what we do and our price points are on certain things like ribeye, what they are, that doesn't mean you can't come in and have something that is within your price point. It's something that I keep very, very prevalent in my mind is this isn't all bougie, right? This isn't for the upper echelon. It's for everybody. If we're going to do this and it's going to be for everybody, it's got to be for everybody.
And I think that they should just ask you because you have the knowledge. So if they're looking at a piece of meat that's maybe like $6.99 a pound instead of $14, they're like, well, what do I do with this then?
Sure.
And like, well, let me explain it to you. I'm sure you're there to give. I'm sure your team and yourself are there to give the suggestions on how to properly prepare it.
Absolutely. But it's like you were talking about variety and different styles of things, and now we're kind of talking about like value added type things that are sort of lower price point that you could do things with. I put matambre in the case over the weekend.
And what's that?
So matambre is like an Argentinian thing where it's almost like an Argentinian brujol.
Okay.
Where they take this pretty tough cut and they hit it with some spices and some seasonings, and they stuff it, they roll it, they slow cook it, and then they char it up on the grill before they slice it down. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But people looked at it in the case and they go, wow, that looks great. Everything you just said sounds great. Not really sure what to do with it. And like, thank you, because I ate it yesterday. I cooked it yesterday and ate it last night. It was amazing. But like, it's one of those, it's cut from a muscle that literally is responsible for a cow shaking flies off of its back
No kidding.
when it's in the field. It's called, Americans call it fly shaker,
Yeah.
right? And so it is. It's tough and it's lean, and you got to know what to do with it to do something with it, or else it's just ground beef. And that's fine too, but like, do something with it.
Here's a real question. Not to take away from this. When was the last time you had McDonald's? I had to break this up. I'm
Not
curious.
McDonald's. I had Burger King on the way back. My family, when my in-laws were here from Seoul, South Korea, we went to Cape Cod for like 2 nights. And on our way back, we stopped on the thruway, and I had some Burger King.
Now, like after you do that, do you like go home and like take a shower and cry and drink a beer in the shower? Like just like, why did I do this? I can't believe I did this.
The lasting impression from it is, man, fast food was so much more delicious when I was a kid.
Fucking A, man.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's both like the fond memory of it in my brain as much as it is like the reality that it, I think, was better.
Well, I think back then though, a lot of us spent a lot of time eating home cooked meals as a kid.
I mean,
so when you really,
my parents were awful.
Oh, really?
Terrible
No, see,
cooks.
I grew up having 6 days a week. I was eating home cooked meals. So like that one day where I'd go out and have like fast food, it was fucking amazing.
Oh yeah.
And now
You
I do
look
it. I'm like
forward
so
to it.
disappointed in myself. Like I'm like, I can't believe you're doing this, you fat ass. Why are you eating this burger right now? Like go home and make a sandwich. Like you feel bad about it, but that's pretty cool. I had to ask because I'm always curious because like you have so much passion for what you do. I wonder if you let like yourself slide as well, for not just eating your own product.
I love pizza. My wife is a taco addict, so she literally makes the rounds all over town buying tacos when she's going down that rabbit hole. And I'm at Pizza Stop all the time.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I don't know. Chris, what do you got for this guy, man?
I mean, I just feel like we learned so much today,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. And, the one thing I do want to touch up on is that you're on the World Butchers Challenge 2020.
Yeah, this is pretty
You're on
exciting.
the Team USA.
So you're representing the USA.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And that's a pretty cool thing. The World Butchers Challenge, for the people who don't know what it is, it was started in 2011. It was a cool, friendly competition between Australia and New Zealand. And then it just grew from there. England won it in. And then once England was in, all of a sudden the Germans and the French won it in, and it grew. And in 2018, it was the largest it had ever been. The United States participated for the first time. There were 12 countries. And we came in 6th out of 12. The United States did. But we were the top scoring first-year team. So out of all the new teams, we did the best.
You guys came out swinging.
Right.
That's awesome.
And so now, the team kind of revamped itself a little bit. They put out some opportunities for some new butchers to join the team, and there was an application process. There was a final sort of tryout cutoff type of scenario, and I made the team.
How many people are on the team to represent?
So in 2020, there will be 16 countries.
Okay.
Each country has a 6-person team.
So 6 people across the United States were chosen for
That's
this.
correct.
That's it.
Jeez.
That's pretty
We're
elite there,
That's
man.
impressive,
That
man.
is really cool.
And we're the only city east of Texas that is represented.
Wow. That's even cooler if you think about it.
So, as far as the city goes, like I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but I feel very excited about the food scene in Rochester as it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a really nice feather in the cap of cooks, chefs, everybody within the industry in this city that, when we go to this competition in Sacramento, California, Labor Day a year from now, in 2020, Rochester is going to be represented. And cool little connection, the Sacramento Kings used to be the Rochester Royals.
Yes.
And the only championship that team has in its whole history was when it was the Rochester Royals. So there is a banner that hangs in the arena that this competition will be in. So Rochester will be in the rafters while I'm competing.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, that is a hell of a thing, man. And, looking back at it, it's like, dude, this is all stems from, like, you literally wanting a career change at the age of 30.
Yeah.
And just saying, forget about it. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. And having passion in what you do and not having anyone handcuff you and being able to do your own thing has really provided you with this opportunity to represent the United States, to represent New York, to represent Rochester, to represent your family. Yeah. It's kind of a cool thing. That's something that I think that everyone should strive for and hope for. I think that's what we all do. It's like, I know for for me, I represent Tucson out here even. Like they get to see it published out here that I'm doing like a Tucson-based like Mexican restaurant, if you will.
Sure.
And I have a lot of people back home who are just like, dude, you put Marana and Tucson on the map. And it's like, I grew up in a town where there's 1,200 people.
Sure.
Like I grew up next to like literally 2,000 acres of like probably just cotton fields. Like I'm as country as they come. And it's like, it's pretty cool to like have accomplished what I've done and try to represent my hometown on that level.
Sure.
So I can only imagine if I had the whole United States on my back. That's a pretty cool thing, but that's
a lot of
of
pressure.
weight. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot
of
Especially when
pressure,
there's 6
a lot of
people in the
work.
whole United States that are doing this.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing. Now, do you guys need endorsements? Do you guys need like people to help like fund this whole thing, or how does this all work? Is it all taken care of, or do you need local support? Do you need support from New York? I mean, how is this going down for you?
So, and I think that's one of the things that gets kind of lost in the mix here is, man, we need to fund this because the team gets together every single month for 4 days a month to practice. So we fly everybody to Sacramento. We stay for a couple of nights. We practice. We need to pay for hotels and flights. We need to pay for animals that we practice with, uniforms, all of these things, because it's there's no United States governing body of this. It's just, and nobody's doing this for money either, which is one of the things I respect about all these other countries as well, is nobody who's competing in this thing is doing it for monetary gain.
It's kind of like
it's
college
just pride.
sports instead of professional sports.
100%.
Man. It's all about pride.
So we're out there fundraising. We're getting corporate sponsorships. We have a GoFundMe page.
Okay.
We consistently are doing fundraising opportunities at the shop. We've got hats and shirts that we're selling that go towards the team. There's countless different opportunities that if you have it within your budget, if you have it within your heart, if it interests you at all and you want to help us out, there's always a way you can do that.
It's a tremendous sacrifice, I mean, once a month, 4 days, you're away from your family, you're away from your business.
It's like you probably only have 4 days a month to spend with your family, let alone have to do something else on top of running a business.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think everyone should respect that and kind of like search for that a little bit.
Absolutely. If you get a chance, you got to get out there. You got to help. Hit that GoFundMe page.
Yeah,
Please
Kevin,
support 'em.
give us the business, the address, the hours. Give us everything that we can kind of put out there so people can hear it and know where to go to do this for you.
So McCann's Local Meats is at 739 South Clinton Avenue, in the edge of the Wedge building, right next to the Cub Room, right pretty much on the corner of Gregory. We're there Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m., 9 to 5 on Saturdays. You can search us out on social media, McCann's Local Meats, all over the place. You can look for the Butchers Guild of America on social media as well. They're sort of the organizing body of the American team, and you can then find the Butchers of America, Team USA, through that. We have an Instagram, we have a Facebook, we have a social media presence through that, and that's where you can find the GoFundMe information. Lots of cool things going through there, so.
Wow.
That's great, man.
It's been a terrific time. Thank you very much for coming on
for
the
having me, guys.
podcast.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks.
I really, truly enjoyed it and learning about you and your history, man. It's been a pleasure.
Cool stuff, guys.
Perfect. Awesome.